So today is a very, very special day. It is the 14th day of the Hebrew month of Kislev, and it is the anniversary, the wedding anniversary of the Lubavitcher Rebbe and the Rebbitzin, the Rebbe, Rabbi Menachem Mendel Schneerson, and Chaim Mushka Schneerson, his amazing Rebbitzin. And every year on the Rebbe's anniversary, the Rebbe would fabrein, which means he had a Hasidic gathering with Torah thoughts, Kabbalistic insights to celebrate the Rebbe's wedding anniversary. So it's a very special day. My grandchildren today wore Shabbos clothes to school because they have like a mock wedding and they teach them all about the beauty of a marriage.
That's nice.
And I want to just share a little bit about the Rebbe and Rebbitzin's marriage. And then we're going to go into a very fascinating psychological, emotional Torah portion. Mm-hmm. So the Rebbitzin was a very private person. She wouldn't daven in the big synagogue 770 with the Rebbe. She would daven upstairs. She didn't want attention. But there's so many beautiful stories. What an amazing marriage they had. And one of them that comes to mind is there was a woman who visited the Rebbitzin. The Rebbitzin loved having people visit her in her home on President Street. But most people like myself didn't visit the Rebbitzin. We were like the disciples. You don't just ring the bell. So it used to be guests who came to the community. For example, my cousins who finally ran away and escaped Russia, my mother brought them to meet the Rebbitzin in her home. So this woman came to meet the Rebbitzin, and she notices a gorgeous bouquet of flowers on the table. And more people were sending bouquets because it was the Rebbe's and Rebbitzin's anniversary. But there was one outstanding bouquet. And when she looked closer, she saw it was edible roses. So she says to the Rebbitzin, who sent you these flowers? She says, these are from my husband, the edible roses. And there's another beautiful story. The Rebbitzin had like a house manager, take care of ordering groceries, everything that needed to be done. His name was Chesed Halberstam. He was married to my husband's first cousin, a Hecht. And he told a story that once the Rebbitzin really hurt herself badly, where she couldn't walk around. But she knew that the Rebbe was so burdened and busy with life as a world leader. She said to Chesed, don't tell the Rebbe that I hurt myself. Friday night, she would serve the Rebbe the food. She would go and bring it out, but she couldn't move around. So she told Chesed, you'll bring out the gefilte fish. You'll bring out the soup. You'll bring out the main course. And I'll just sit at the table. Now, of course, the Rebbe realized that after so many years, she's not serving him. Something must be up. But he didn't let on. He didn't let on. But she just didn't want to, we as women, we of course kvetch to our husbands all the time. We're professionals at that.
You too?
Of course, I'm one of the biggest kvetches. Yeah. I once said to my husband, didn't you ever want to buy me a magnificent home, a mansion? And my husband said, I didn't think about it. I'm like, wow, that's a big one there. You have to go to therapy for that one.
Wow.
So there's another beautiful story I want to share. There's so many stories, but this is another beautiful story that every year on the anniversary, the Neshei Chabad, which means the women of the Chabad community, would all write down names of people who needed a blessing, whether for illness or any problems or issues. And on the day of the anniversary, they would send a gorgeous bouquet, and they would attach a note with all the people that need a blessing from the Rebbe. So they bring the bouquet to the house, and the Rebbitzin thanks the woman who brings it. And she tells the Rebbitzin, these are the names of the people that need a bracha. And she said, no worries, I will give it to my husband, the Rebbe. So Chesed, the house manager, she says to Chesed, quickly take this note and walk it over to 770, which is like 3 blocks away. Tell the Rebbe, these people need a bracha. So he brings the note to the Rebbe's office. The Rebbe looks at it and he smiles and he says, he says in Yiddish, the Rebbetzin could give better blessings than me. In other words, you didn't even have to bring it to me. My wife, the Rebbetzin, is even more powerful, great, and she could give even a better blessing than me. And so he brought the Rebbetzin back the notes, and he's told the Rebbetzin what the Rebbe said, and of course, she gave a blessing. And people have stories where they came to the Rebbetzin with a problem or an issue, and they said, the Rebbetzin asked the Rebbe for a bracha. And she said to the person, don't worry, so-and-so will be well. And she gave it over to the Rebbe, and the person said later, Rebbetzin, my relative is better. And she said, I told you they will be well. In other words, her blessings were equally holy and great, equal to the Rebbe. And I guess that's why the Rebbe married the Rebbetzin, who was the daughter of the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe.
Wow.
And one more tidbit before we go into the Parsha is that the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe, his daughter Chaim Mushka, he had no sons. He would give her tasks and chores and made her an emissary of so many things that he wanted to accomplish. She was absolutely brilliant, kind, compassionate, loving, and I met her a few times when I brought her Purim Shalach Manis for my grandparents, and she was on the phone every single day with my grandfather, my mother's father. They were very, very close. Wow. And it's a whole story, but I'll just share one thing. She said to my grandfather, your daughter, my mother, Mrs. Jacobson, she has a ga'onish cup. She has a brilliant mind. And my mother took it as such a compliment that the Rebbetzin should say about her that she has a brilliant mind. My mother always glows from that compliment. My mother, she should have long life. So what do you do on a Rebbe's anniversary? We know that the souls of the tzaddikim, of the righteous, and every soul lives on. We give tzedakah. We learn some extra Torah. We do an extra mitzvah on an anniversary of the Rebbe and the Rebbetzin. And also we do something nice for our own spouses because we realize the value of a beautiful, healthy, harmonious marriage.
Question, Freida.
Yes, go ahead.
Did Hannah Schneerson have, was she the only daughter of her father and mother?
No, her name was Chaim Mushka. She had a sister. She had one sister that perished in the Holocaust, Shana. My daughter is named after that Rebbetzin, her sister, her younger sister. And she had another sister, Chana, who married the Rebbe's brother-in-law. His name was Reb Shmayahu Gurari, the older brother-in-law. The older sister, Chana, married Rabbi Shmayahu Gurari. But the Rebbe became...
Did Hannah Mushka have a child? Did she have children?
The Rebbetzin and the Rebbe were not able to conceive.
Right, all right.
And the Rebbe spoke about it a few times to people who said, we went to specialists, and obviously God did not give the Rebbe and Rebbetzin children, but Chesed brought his son, used to bring his son to play in the Rebbetzins house when he worked. And the Rebbetzin absolutely loved him. And he was the boy that was killed on the Brooklyn Bridge. Remember the terrorist attack on the Brooklyn Bridge? And there was a boy that was shot by a Muslim terrorist. That was her son, his son. His name was Ari Halberstam.
So ironic. So are there any descendants of Mushka, Hannah Mushka's family, her sister? Did they have another child?
Yes. So she has a nephew, Beryl Gurari. Beryl Gurari, and he lives somewhere in New York. And the Rebbe has a niece. So there are relatives that are older but alive. Now, just want to share. So when Chesed's son Ari was playing in the house, he says, Rebbetzin, where are your children? I don't see any children. So she smiled and she said, all the Hasidim are my children. So that's who the Rebbetzin was. She expressed herself so beautifully. All the Hasidim are my children, she said. So that's a beautiful gift to know that you're considered a child of the Rebbe and the Rebbetzin. You notice children, not followers, children.
Do you think they were not meant to have children because of the work they had to do?
You don't know
It's
the way.
bad.
Yeah, you don't know the way of God. You don't know why. The Rebbe never said to anyone, "Oh, I don't have children because A, B, or C." But I would say no because, first of all, it's one of the first mitzvahs in the Torah.
Yeah, it makes no sense.
Yeah, and secondly, look how many great Jewish Rebbes had children.
Right.
The Rebbe Maharaj had 7 sons. One of the next Rebbes, Rabbi Shmuel. So it's a gift to have children. And if you're not given that gift for whatever reason, what do you do, I remember somebody wrote to the Rebbe, they said, my wife and I can't have children, and they're heartbroken. So the Rebbe said to them, support institutions for children. So they were very wealthy. They became supporters of Jewish day schools and yeshivas, and their names are everywhere. In every school, you see their name.
Wow. That's what makes it the greatness, that you turn the struggle into looking ahead and making a difference.
Exactly.
And there's just such an, I guess, interesting, you can dissect why was it now that there aren't descendants directly from the great Rebbe. I mean, you are the descendants, so many, but not and God, Hashem, that's what was to be.
Yeah, that's what God wanted. A person tries their best, and at the end of the day, God does what God said wants to do. That's how it is.
It's not a loss. I mean, when you're going through it and you can't have children, that is a loss. But look at how great the family made everything and everyone love even further.
Yes, exactly. Well, the Rebbe wasn't the Rebbetzin were unusual, the Moses of our generation. That's how you look at it, the Nasi Hadar. And we still look at the Rebbe as our leader, as our inspiring us, the teachings, the directives. People asked me after the Rebbe passed away physically, because, we believe the Rebbe's alive spiritually, who's the next Rebbe? How come there's no last will and testament? So it's interesting, in Chabad, Rebbes, it's not an inherited position, it's an earned position. Either you're born a Rebbe or you're not born a Rebbe. Even you see many Rebbes had sons, but they were not the next Rebbe. Right? It's not an inherited position, it's an earned position. Either you're born a Moses or you're not born a Moses. That's how it is. This is how it always been Chabad. By other dynasties, it's the next of kin, the son, the brother, the uncle, and they have a different way they do it. But you see that the oldest brother-in-law of the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe did not become Rebbe, and he didn't want it because he knew he wasn't a Rebbe, and the Rebbe didn't want to be Rebbe. Rebbetzin Chaim Mushka, when her father passed away, the Rebbe a whole year refused to assume the leadership position. He was a very introverted person. So the Rebbetzin says to her husband, the Rebbe, if you don't become Rebbe, who will continue my father's work? So it's not an egotistical position. We need you. And when the Rebbe heard that his wife told him this, he became the Rebbe. He accepted the leadership position. But the Rebbe said, I don't want to be a Rebbe. I don't need to be a Rebbe. I'm not a Rebbe. So you see, those who seek honor don't deserve honor. Those who don't seek honor, there's a saying goes, deserve the honor.
Was he an engineer?
Pardon?
Was he an engineer before?
Yeah. The Rebbe actually got a college education. And when people came to the Rebbe for advice, his vast knowledge of the secular topics were unbelievable. Physics, science, mathematics, engineering. The Rebbe had vast knowledge, but the Rebbe was brilliant. Rabbi J.B. Soloveitchik, the brilliant leader of Yeshiva University, was in school with the Rebbe, and he said there was no mind like the Rebbe. The Rebbe was a mind that's one in a lifetime, one in a million, one in an infinite million.
And look at what Hannah Mushka did. She brought him to greatness because he wasn't able to, in that kind of mind, to step out of it. And she knew her job because she was trained by her father, all the ins and outs. What a gift of a woman, the heroine, Who wrote a book about her?
There is a book. It's called Rebbetzin Chayimushka. It's a beautiful book. It's a short book, but it's very good. It talks about her life. She's very private, so there's not hundreds and thousands of stories, but there's many, many stories. And what's very obvious that the Rebbetzin in her own right was a prophetess, was a righteous woman, was a Rebbetzin. That's why when people call me Rebbetzin, I'm like, I'm no Rebbetzin. A Rebbetzin is Chayimushka, who I grew up with. That's a Rebbetzin. Or the Rebbe's mother, Rebbetzin Chana. Me, I'm no Rebbetzin, trust me.
That's your Rebbetzin, but you're our Rebbetzin. Don't take it away.
We got to trade in for a new
Yes,
Rebbetzin.
you are.
We got to trade up. So does anybody want to share anything else before we go into the beautiful Torah portion? So by the way, I love the conversation. I feel like it's so interactive. I was telling my husband, I feel like I want the ladies to speak more because it's boring just to listen to me. So thank you for that. So please share
Not boring.
and interrupt and ask questions because I love it. I love the interaction. It gives me a very uplifting feeling. So we're going into Parshas Vayishlach. We missed last week due to Thanksgiving, but I want to sum up the Torah portion so we're all on the same page. So Vayishlach means, and he sent. Jacob, the son of Isaac and Rebekah, runs away from his brother Esau, if you remember, because he took the birthright, the blessings, and he runs to live with his wife's family in Mesopotamia. 20 years later, he has now 11 sons and a daughter, 11 of the 12 tribes, 4 wives, Leah, Rachel, Zilpah, and Bilhah. And God tells him, Jacob, Yaakov, time to go home. Time to go back to the land of Israel, which at that time was called Canaan. Of course, his father-in-law doesn't want him to leave. He's brought prosperity to his father-in-law, the swindler, the thief. So he runs away when his father-in-law is out shearing the cattle, the sheep, and it takes 2 years as he travels back. Because imagine what he owns. He not only has sons, a daughter, wives, there's cattle, there's shepherds who work with him. He has a whole entourage. He has a whole colony of people. Now he's heading back to the land of Israel. Who is he going to meet? Anybody remember?
Esau.
Esau, the one he ran away from. So it's a dangerous situation. He can't come back to the land of Israel and ignore the fact that someone's out to get him. So he prepares. And he finds out that Esau is on the warpath with 400 men. Not a good sign. So what does Jacob do? He prepares in 3 ways. Who remembers? What are the 3 ways? Prayer, gifts.
Didn't he send him gifts?
Gifts, very good. And what's the last resort? He prepares for war. Prayer, gifts, and war. First you pray, you hope to appease the enemy, and if all else fails, you have to defend yourself. Then there's a very cryptic story, which I hope we'll get to, where he leaves some of his possessions on the other side of the river that he leaves accidentally behind the Yabok River. And he goes back and he wrestles with some kind of strange man, an angel who dislocates his hip, his sciatica. That's why we don't eat the sciatica part of the meat. When you're Jewish kosher, you don't eat the sciatica. And he gets a dislocated hip. He vanquishes this supernatural angel, the host of Esau, which we'll talk about a little later. Jacob meets Esau. Instead of war, there's an embrace, there's a miracle. Esau is mellowed out. And Esau says, come with me. Yaakov says, not right now. I'm heading in a different direction. Notice that. And then there's a very tragic ending to the Torah portion where they come to the town of Shechem. Shechem abducts Dinah, Jacob's daughter, and he violates her, and Shimon and Levi, the two brothers, the whole story, but they end up slaughtering out and rescuing their sister. And she becomes pregnant with Shem, which we talk about, the Cinderella story. And the last tragic ending is as Rachel is about to give birth to the 12th tribe, Benjamin, Binyamin, she dies in childbirth. And she's buried in Hebron, in Kever Rachel, which is near Hebron. And in Beit Lechem, near Beit Lechem. And that's how the Parsha concludes. So it starts off on a higher note, it ends off on a little bit of a sadder note. So there's so many, every one of these topics, the wrestling with the angel, the death of Rachel, the passing of Rachel, the abduction and the violation of Dinah, and how they slaughter out, kill the entire town of Shechem. All this is a very heavy material and requires each one a lesson in itself. I chose to start with something that I never shared before, and I thought something new, something blue, something new, and we'll perhaps be able to get to more of the topics. I want to start off with what happens when Jacob finds out that Esau is coming towards him with 400 men. He creates a strategy, and it's a little bit complicated. What is the strategy? And I'm going to read from the pasuk. I'll read in English. So he finds out that Jacob is not only coming to meet up with him, but he's coming to fight him and harm him, right? So what does Jacob do? They already prayed. Now it's time for the second plan. Let's give a gift, appeasements. Jacob, I'm reading from the pasuk, but in English, the passage. Jacob, trying to appease his brother Esau, who's coming to fight him, wants to send a lavish gift to Esau. So he takes 3 messengers, because he's going to send 3 sets of gifts, all the same, but 3 sets. And this is what he tells his messengers, and tell me what you think. He instructs them as follows. When you meet my brother Esau, and he's going to ask you 3 questions. Who do you belong to? Where are you going? And what is all this stuff, these animals that you have with you? And you shall answer, Jacob tells the 3 messengers. 1, who do you belong to? Your servant Jacob. What is all the stuff? They are gifts for you, Esau. And where are you going? We're going towards you, but Jacob himself is right behind us. So what do you think about this conversation? What troubles you, or what's weird about this conversation that he tells his messengers?
I don't think it's weird. I think that he's announcing like the great leader is coming, and he's offering you gifts and compromise and men, and it looks like a big shadoo.
Okay.
And he also wants to maybe he might want to get a feel for Esau's temperature at the moment and how he's going to react.
Okay, very good. The commentaries ask a question. You're bringing gifts to somebody, right? 3 sets of gifts, all duplicates. Well, first of all, how do you know he's going to ask those 3 questions? Who says he's going to ask you who are you from? What are these gifts? Where are you going? Maybe he won't say anything. Why not just leave it be? Send the gifts and wait to see what happens. How do you know he's going to ask these 3 questions? So why do you have to prepare? Tell your messengers, these are the questions. And by the way, when he asks these 3 questions, I want you to have the answers ready to go. Maybe he's not going to ask any questions. Maybe he's going to ask different questions. Maybe who knows? So why is it so important for Jacob to enumerate questions and answers? This is the big question here. And this goes back to a theme that I want to share one more time, because I always feel it's so important to start with the basics. We've always discussed over the years of our class, Maisa Avay Simin Labanim, that everything that the matriarchs and patriarchs did paved the way for future generations. In other words, those who dug a path through the jungle and created the bridges and the walkways, now when we travel through the jungle, we have a walkway, we have bridges, we have pathways. So the patriarchs and the matriarchs not only created physical pathways for us, they created spiritual pathways for us. So every time there was a challenge, a tragedy, a crisis, and we look how they approached it, it wasn't only that they approached it with such wisdom and clarity and strength and pain sometimes, of course, because it's not, you can't say it wasn't painful. They created spiritual sparks that when we encounter the same similar trials and tribulations and challenges, it's much easier for us because Tati and Mommy, Daddy and Mommy already did this once. They already built the spiritual bridges and pathways. And for an example, let me explain so we bring it together. Why did God ask Abraham to bring his firstborn, Yitzchak, his son he finally had after so many years of trying to conceive with Sarah? And the one who was going to be the next patriarch and continue the legacy of the Jewish nation. How could God ask him to bring Yitzchak as an offering? Who asks a person to do that? Such self-sacrifice. Why did God have to do that to him? And then tell him, no, I don't want you to kill your son. It was a test. Why? When Abraham, without question, brings his son, who's already in his 30s, to the altar, and then God says, no, this was a test. This level of self-sacrifice is the reason that thousands of Jews were able to march into the crematorium singing, I believe in God. God did this, I don't know why, but we, anim, amin, b'emunah shalem, b'b'vias HaMashiach. So it is Abraham's and Sarah's self-sacrifice that paved the spiritual path for when we need it. It's there. It's in our DNA. We have the stock portfolio because our parents invested and gave it us ancestral wealth, so to speak, generational wealth. Now I want to explain now how this is relevant. So everything the matriarchs and patriarchs do is not only the story of the day. He sends gifts because, you don't want to fight with my brother. Let me ask forgiveness through gifts. Let's make a treaty here.
Mm-hmm.
What Jacob is actually, the Kabbalah, now we're bringing the Kabbalah, Jewish mysticism, Hasidus, is Jacob is encountering Esau. That's the story. He sends the gifts, and when he meets up, there's a miracle, and Esau, instead of fighting, embraces him and says, yes, I forgive you, let's get going, let's live out our years together. That's the story. But what's the real story for all generations? Because the Torah is not only a fairy tale, a true tale. The Torah is also teaching us something for all generations, forever. Jacob says to us, and we're all Jacob, we're all the children of Jacob, we are Jacob. You're going to be encountering an Esau in your life. You're going to be encountering warfare in your life. Internal warfare, external warfare. How do you address this? How do you fulfill your mission on earth knowing you're going to be encountering the Esau in your life? What is the Esau in your life? Last time we spoke about that everyone has an animal soul and a divine soul, and there's a tug and pull. Everyone has a Yetzer Hara, a negative inclination, and Yetzer Tov, a positive inclination. And the reason God gave it to us in a nutshell is because we have free choice. If God created us only with a positive inclination to do the right thing, There's no choice. You're like an angel. The angels are not given a choice. Whatever God tells them, they do. Man was given a positive inclination, says the Kabbalah. It's called Yetzer Tov. The Yetzer Hara, negative inclination. So when you're faced with choices many times, there's a tug and pull within. No, I really, this is so delicious. I know it's not kosher, but I love it. I'm just using something superficial here.
Uh-huh.
And your choice is to say, will I live and listen to the negative inclination? Will I listen to the positive inclination? Sometimes the choices are clear. Many times the choice is not clear. The evil inclination disguises itself as positive. So you have to be very sensitive to that. And I'll give an example of that in a minute. So Jacob says, you're going to encounter that evil inclination, the Esau. And Esau is the one person, the thing in you that makes you feel unworthy of your life, makes you feel insecure. It's a situation when Esau says, who sent you? Who do you belong to? Who are you? Who died and made you king? You think, "Bar bistu"? You think you're worthy? You are nothing. What makes you think you even deserve to exist in this world? And we begin to doubt ourselves. Yeah, who am I? Why am I even here? Do I even have a purpose in my life? And you begin to doubt yourself, and you can't move on in life because you're feeling so blah. My friend just told me I'm worthless. Or I feel worthless. I don't feel worthy of my life. And then take it further. What does it say? What is your life all about? What is your life all about? What have you accomplished, Freida? Tell me one thing you did. You did nothing. Why do you even get up in the morning? And then you doubt yourself even more. You say, where am I going? Am I even going anywhere? I'm in the same rut my entire life. So the evil inclination within you starts making you feel unworthy of your life, unsuccessful, a failure. I'm a nothing. I'm a nothing. And then sometimes it's external people that make you feel that way. Your parents, your children, your husband, your friends, your neighbors, your therapist. So Yaakov says, ladies and gentlemen, you're going to encounter the Esau in your life. The Esau is going to say, who are you? Where are you going? You're going anywhere? And what have you to offer to this world? Let me tell you what to tell that evil inclination. Let me tell you what to tell the Esau within you. Who are you? You're the daughter and son of Jacob. You're me. You deserve to exist because you come from me. God didn't just put you here by accident. You're born because you have a mission in the world. Birth is God saying you need to be here. Otherwise, why were you born? You think God made a mistake? Mm-hmm. Birth is God telling you you matter. And what are your gifts? What have you contributed to this world? Every minute you're alive is your gift, is a gift. The minute you exist, you're a gift to this world. That's why in the morning, what did we say right away? Thank you, God, for letting me wake up. Look at every moment of your life as a gift. They asked Rebbetzin Chayimushka, I shared this with you, I'll share it again. What was your favorite moment in your entire life so far? And what did she say? This moment. Every moment is a gift. You're questioning me, what have I contributed? My existence is a gift. Every minute is a gift. And where are you going? What are you doing? I'm going to Esau. I'm going to conquer the Esau in my life. I'm not going to let negativity rule supreme. I'm going to Esau. That's what you tell Esau. I'm coming to you. I'm going to get you. You're not running my life. Positivity will rule, not you. And this is our daily activity. You wake up and say, who am I? Wow. Go ahead, Jade. Yes.
Oh, no, I was just agreeing with you. It is a daily activity.
So the mission of a Jew on earth, your soul is sent down here. Sur meirav asay tayv. Leave the negative and do good. Embrace the positive. We were put in this world to reveal the godly sparks, the goodness in the world. And how do we do it? By vanquishing Esau, by vanquishing negativity. So Jacob is not just giving his messengers 3 questions and 3 answers. He's giving every generation the questions you're going to encounter in your life. And how do you deal with the answers? What are your answers? When someone says, who are you? Heck, who are you? Who do you think you are? Just you have a fancy house. Big deal. Who are you? Yeah, you think you're something. You think you have any status in this community? People love to tell you you're a nobody. And this is, I want to tie it into the passage from Ethics of Our Fathers. Who says it? The Ethics of Our Fathers, great sages give us like lessons of life, like love your fellow like you love yourself. The highest form of wisdom is kindness. And the Ethics of the Father, Akvia says, who's Akvia? From the same terminology as Yaakov. So Akvia, who has the same name as Yaakov in a sense, Jacob says, look at 3 things in your life: from where you're coming, where you're going, and to whom you have to give a final accountability, which is to God. So may ayin yavai, where are you coming from? May ayin means from where, but it also means from nothing you have come. We all come from nothing. You know what? We come from no thing. We come from God. God is not a thing. It's no thing. We come from no thing. We come from nothing. If you want to make a joke, you could tell somebody, I come from nothing. I come from no thing. God is no thing because God is infinite. It's a play on words. So who do you come from? I come from nothing. I come from God. And where are you going? We know where we're going. We're going to conquer the world. We're going to make the world a place of goodness, kindness, peace, and love and harmony. Take every opportunity and turn it into goodness, carpe diem, seize the moment. And because at the end of the day, we're going to be accountable to Almighty God. This is the passage from Ethics of Our Fathers. So we have to look at this and say, every day we confront Esau. Every day we're confronting Esau in our lives. We're always given choices, A or B. Sometimes the choice is clear. Sometimes the choice is not clear. But we have to know that we have that wealth within us. We have the gifts of every moment. There's a story, a beautiful story. I think that kind of like hits it home. There was a guy, his name was Chaim Kreisworth from Belgium. And he was in shul, he was in synagogue on a morning. And a poor man, you could see he was very, very poor. He looked very, very destitute. Came to him and said, Rabbi, can you give me a donation? I need food. So Rabbi Kreisworth saw he was so destitute. He gave him money. He says, where do you live? Where do you go? And he starts talking to him. He says, Rabbi, I live from day to day. The money you're giving me is today's meal. Tomorrow's money I collect will be tomorrow's meal. And the Rabbi Kreisworth said he felt horrible, and he started to question the guy more and more and more, and something flicked in his brain. And he says to the man, come back tomorrow. Tomorrow I need to speak to you. He said, okay. The next day, the guy comes back, and he says to him, I want to tell you something, sit down. You are a very, very wealthy man. He starts to laugh. He says, Rabbi, I know you like to make jokes, but I'm not a wealthy man. I can't even buy food. I have nowhere to live even. He says, no, you're a very wealthy man. I'm not joking. And he tells him the following story. He said, I was in Germany with your father. Your father was a young man with little children. Your father was not able to escape Germany. I was. And your father handed me a paper with a Swiss bank account and the codes and the numbers and everything to access money that he's been putting away for years and years, anticipating a day that he would have to run away. But he says, I can't get away. I'll not be able to escape. You're escaping. Take this after the war, after it's all over. If you could help find my children and give them this money, it would be the greatest, greatest gift for me. So Rabbi Kreisworth took the information for the Swiss bank accounts and he kept it with him. And when he survived the war and he came to Belgium, he kept it. And when he met this man in Shul and he told him the name, he started to research and he realized this man was the child of the other man who left the money. And he says, here's money for a ticket. Go to Switzerland and claim your inheritance. And he did. And he was very wealthy. So why do I feel the story? Because when I read the story, I'm like, this is exactly what we're talking about. We don't know we're wealthy. We don't realize we're wealthy. We might look at ourselves and go, I'm a poor person. I'm a poor person. I've struggled with this and I'm struggling with that. We don't realize we have so much wealth in our bank account. We just have to access it. It's the Esau within us that tell us, nah, you're poor, you're unsuccessful, you're a loser. Sometimes it's people telling us, sometimes we're telling ourselves. You have to pull ourselves up and say, no, I am wealthy. I have within me the godly soul. I'm Jacob's child. I come from no thing. I come from God. And I can access the gifts of every minute. And I know where I'm going. I have a destination. I have a purpose and I have a mission. Is it clear every day? No. We're all stumbling through life, wondering, why am I here? Maybe I'm not all there. But you have perspective. You're always going to be asked these questions. These are the eternal questions people ask you all the time. Who are you? Oh, you're from that? Yeah, damn. I laugh because sometimes, my daughter had a story. I'll tell you a funny story. My daughter was in California and she was looking to rent this house in Hancock Park. And the owner of the house was the yeshiva, but it was a gorgeous house. So everyone is giving in applications. There's not that many rentals in Hancock Park in the Jewish area. And so my daughter gives an application and goes to meet the head of the yeshiva who's renting out the house. He says, who are you? She says, I'm Freida Hecht. My mother is Jacobson. Which Hecht? She says, well, my grandmother was Grunhut. My father's grandmother is Grunhut. He says, Grunhut. The house is yours. Who are you? Jacobson. I don't know those people, but Grunhut. The house is yours. He knew my husband's grandmother from Galicia. His parents knew my husband's grandparents. So there you go. Who are you? You're a nobody. Bubba. My daughter was applying for camp, for the Chabad camp. Her last name she has a very American last name. So she applied for camp, and they like to take names they recognize. They didn't take her son because who's this last name? So my husband calls up the director of the camp. He said, this is Rabbi Hecht. Oh, you're Freida's husband? Yeah, we'll take your grandson. We didn't know who he was. Sometimes, who are you? You got to sometimes pull the string. This is just humor, but yeah.
Freida's grandson. I love it.
Listen, when my maiden name works, I use my maiden name. When my husband's last name works, you use whatever you can to open those doors, right? So this is what Yaakov is telling us. You're going to encounter the Esau, and you have to know what to say and be secure in who you are. This is really the lifelong challenge. of finding ourselves and confronting the insecurities, my brother has a great joke. He says, two Jews meet, right? If within 5 minutes they can't ascertain a familiar relationship, you're not Jewish. If your Baba's uncles and sons, nephews not related to me, I don't think you're Jewish. So we right away always look to see, who are you? Oh, Diane, what's your maiden name? Oh, yeah, okay, yeah. My grandfather knew your grandfather from Poland. So that's
well, my relatives are from Galicia also.
Oh, Galicia.
Galicia.
Yeah. Which also tells us, it says that when God created man, well, how do you say man in Hebrew? What's that first man's name?
Adam,
which means Adama comes from earth, right? But also it could mean Adama la'elyon. You're compared to godliness. So yeah, people could say to you, you're Adam, you're earth. Oh no, Adama la'elyon. I'm part of God. So also it's perspective. People could say like this, but then you could say like that. So may I, where are you coming from? Who are you coming from? May I, from no thing I come from God. So you could look at things from this Esau's perspective. You could look at things from Jacob's perspective. Depends on perspective. So there was a girl, Bracha, a religious woman. She's a nurse in a oncology unit in the hospital. And there was a patient there, Shirley. And Shirley's 74 years old. She looks at Bracha's name tag on her uniform. She says, Bracha, like blessing? You're Jewish? She says, of course I'm Jewish with the name Bracha. I'm a religious Jew. She says, guess what? I'm also Jewish. What's your name? Shirley. And she tells her, the doctors told her she has cancer, terminal, and she's not going to survive another few months. That's it. So, of course, Bracha, the nurse, felt terrible. And she wanted to chat. So she let her chat. She says, yeah, Shirley tells her, I'm a child of Holocaust survivors. We came to America. I fell in love with a non-Jewish man. I got married. My parents disowned me. They sat Shiva. They said, you did what Hitler couldn't do. And they didn't speak to me for 10 years during my marriage. She said, we didn't have children. It didn't work out. I got divorced. But after the divorce, I was still a little bit estranged from my parents. They spoke to me, but there was an estrangement. She says, I'm 74. I don't have a husband. I don't have children. I have nothing. And I'm dying. Bracha, help me. Give me something to do for my last months of my life as a Jewish person. I haven't done anything. I'm nothing. I'm zero. And she cries. So Bracha, who tells the story, says she's thinking, she says, I have an excellent idea. She says, Shirley, my friend is marrying off her daughter in a few weeks. She has no money. There's a mitzvah called Hachnosas Kala. It's a wonderful mitzvah to help pay for a bride, a Jewish bride, to marry a Jewish groom. It's a very big mitzvah. How about you give me some money for the wedding? It's a beautiful thing to do. She was so touched. She says, how much do they need? So she blurts out $25,000. So Shirley takes out her checkbook, writes out a check for $25,000. Wow. And then Shirley says, you'll give it to them? She says, absolutely. She says, by the way, what's the bride's name? She says, Sarah Leah, like the two. And Shirley bursts out sobbing. She says, what happened, Shirley? She says, my Hebrew name is Sarah Leah.
Oh, that's so beautiful.
You have nothing? You don't have nothing. You have something. You have something. Everybody has something because you have a godly soul. You were born with a reason, with a mission, a purpose. It might be what Shirley did. You never underestimate your contribution to this universe. You never know which is the trigger point of what you have to accomplish in your life. Sarah Leah. Divine providence. I have no other way of looking at it. So the Torah portion, I think, tells us so importantly, we all are going to be confronted with our insecurities and the people who tear us down. And usually we tear ourselves down. Your biggest judge is you yourself. And you have to know that every moment of your life is a gift. You have a destination, you have a mission, you have a purpose. And who are you? Me'ayin. You come from no thing, you come from God. You come from God. So I'm going to leave everyone with this message, this note. Does anybody want to add anything, say anything, ask any questions?
I have a question.
Sure.
So we're talking about how we react internally to the negativity, to the criticism, self-worth. And right now there's like a talk in psychology that if you encounter negativity, negative people who bring negative energy into your life, the best way is to limit them, not to involve, not, limit your time with them. But sometimes they're family members, right? So I know maybe it's a little bit off topic, but Jacob embraced Esau, right? They embraced each other, even though they left separate ways afterwards. So what do you do? Do you embrace negative people, still limit your contact, or you just, invest even more time into the negative relationship?
So I'll tell you just my own personal opinion, because I don't know, I can't say that this is everyone's opinion. No. I feel like this. If you encounter a negative energy, a negative person, and we always do, and it's somebody close to you, and you can't just run away, because if it's a stranger that you meet at a party or at a fundraiser, okay, they're negative, you're never going to see them again. If you can, in your own way, have a positive impact and comment on their attitude, and it works, it helps, maybe they don't realize it, you should absolutely say something. But if you see that this person is tearing you down time after time again, and there is no constructive relationship here, you have to distance yourself a little bit, and you have to tell them, I feel that I'm a very positive person, and the negative energy really, really hurts me because we're so close. So if you don't mind, I need to take a step back because I feel I can't function in a negative environment. It really hurts me so deeply. So if you could change them by, sharing, fine. Usually you can't. I always say in a marriage, the only way you can change your spouse by changing yourself. And people are very resistant to this. Why? Because what does everybody think? Why should I change myself? He's the one with the problem. She's the one with the problem. Why should I change me? I'm not the one with the problem. I'm the good part. You can't change the other person. You change the way you approach the other person, and you can change them that way. And it really, really works, by the way. Like, let's say you have a child and nothing is ever good in the house. We all have those children. I have 11 of them, and sometimes they're like that. Nothing is ever good. You say, oh, I hate the food. Really? I thought it tastes quite good. Always respond with positivity. And it will eventually, it will translate. It's better than saying to the child, oh, you're always so negative. You never eat what I make. Don't eat it. Go somewhere else. You say, wow, I thought it tasted very good. Okay. You know what? Next time I'll use less spices. Sometimes I make humor out of it. So it depends on the person. It depends on the situation. But definitely don't hang out with negative energy if you don't have to. Like I work with many organizations, Diane, you know that, and Jane and Debbie. I always say, sometimes people want to join the committee and they're very negative. I kind of say no in a nice way, like, oh, not right now. Why? You need positive energy to produce. All you need is one Debbie Downer, and the whole meeting is how terrible everything is. No, you can never do that. You'll never do anything, Freida. No, it's not going to work. I'm telling you, I've been fundraising for 100 years. It's never going to work. Nothing's ever going to work. So you distance yourself.
It's kind of like what Jacob did. He embraced Esau, and then he said, okay, you go your way, I go my way.
Exactly. It is, and exactly the Torah points that out, that Esau wanted them to live together. And he says, you know what, I have to go somewhere else right now. He didn't say, oh, I don't like you, it's not going to be a good influence. So listen, life is a struggle and a challenge. There's no easy answer, and it's a process. To wear someone down takes time, trust me.
But they made peace. They made peace with their...
Yeah, you make peace, and you know it's not your... also like when somebody insults you sometimes, right? Did you ever meet people, they're not close to you, but they feel they can use... I always tell my children, don't respond. No, that's their problem. They're going through a hard time. You're not going through a hard time. Freida, why did you get that haircut? It's horrible. Oh, thank you for your opinion. But guess what? It's not my problem. They having a hard time, so they're lashing out. I just use a silly example. No one ever told me that. But I'm saying that when someone lashes out at you because they're having a bad day, they need to vent, you can have compassion and empathy, or you can argue with them and get into a confrontation. Why'd you insult me? I thought you were my friend. So, that's the approach always has to be very, I feel always, my way is the highway. Always respond with positive compassion and empathy, and realize sometimes it's not your problem. You just happen to be in the corner when they needed somebody to punch.
It's hard sometimes.
Very hard. Very.
Jacob was ready to go to war, right? The third portion was here. He was ready to go to war. Is there conditions that we in Judaism have that we go to war for, that we say, okay, this is time for war. This is time for gifts. This is time for war.
Absolutely. And you can see it now in the Code of Jewish Law, and it just happened with Israel. And the Lubavitcher Rebbe spoke about this. If the Code of Jewish Law says something that's very fascinating. If the enemy comes to your barn and steals hay, go grab your ammunition and go to war against them. And the question is why? They just took your hay, because they're going to come back for you. They came for your hay, they're going to come for your children. And that's what happened with Hamas. They came for our hay, we gave them Gaza, and then they came for us. So it's already documented. So the Code of Jewish Law is not all about only eating kosher, keeping Shabbos. It's all about life. If the enemy comes, Yom Kippur War, Golda Meir knew, my father was a Middle East analyst, he was a journalist, there was going to be an attack. She didn't attack first. Why? Afraid of what everyone will say. She knew there was going to be an attack, and she didn't attack. And this cost thousands of lives. We as Jews have to know when to go. It's a joke. Jews always are feeling guilty and accountable. And when we finally pick up a fist, what do? Yom Kippur, I've sinned, I've sinned. Even when we pick up a fist, we do.
Never heard that it was good.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Thank
this
you.
is the Torah portion of the week. Ladies, tomorrow, don't forget to light Shabbos candles 18 minutes before sunset. Unite with light.
Thank you.
Love that.